This is a tragic and dark story. I'll tell it in the first person. It all began when I was in elementary school. A self-proclaimed spiritual master came to our house, trying to recruit my mother into a new religious group. At first, she politely turned him away, but every 3 days he would return, persistently urging her to join. My mother was not the forceful type, so she would listen for a while and then gently say, "I'm sorry. Maybe next time," before sending him off. As the visits grew more frequent, one day my father happened to be home. He spoke to the man in a very firm tone and told him to leave. The master replied coldly, "Strong rejection won't help. It is your destiny to come to us." Then he left. Out of caution, my father spoke with the police about the situation. From that day on, officers began making regular patrols in our neighborhood. But something terrible still happened. 1 week later, my mother disappeared. During her disappearance, the spiritual master came again. He said harshly, "See, I told you. If you sincerely believe and join the faith, your mother will come back." At the time, only my older sister, my younger brother, and I were at home. We were terrified. He added, "I'll come back when your father is here," and left. After he was gone, my sister hurriedly called our father. He said he was coming home right away and hung up. I tried to comfort my little brother, who was crying loudly, while silently praying that Mom would return soon. But in the end, she never did. My sister contacted our school teachers and explained the situation at home, asking for temporary leave. Because of that, the local police and our teachers started visiting our house regularly in the following days. My father held a high position at his company and was in the middle of the official year's closing, so he couldn't take time off. I was in junior high and involved in club activities, but I felt the family situation was too unstable, so I decided to rush straight home after classes. The teachers were worried about me too. For a while, the 3 of us, my older sister, my younger brother, and I lived alone. Sometimes my older sister's homeroom teacher would come over and eat with us. Having an adult around made us feel safe and grounded. During that period, the religious recruiter didn't appear again, so we had some peaceful days. Still, we never found my mother. We had reported her disappearance to the police shortly after she vanished, but there was no progress. Officers kept coming to ask about our situation, yet my mother never contacted us. We were stuck in a deadlock. We children tried not to think about it, but deep down we all felt that Mom was probably never coming back. Then one day, the school held a sports festival. My younger brother, my older sister, and my father all came. It had been so long since we felt that happy. After the event, we went to a well-known family restaurant and enjoyed a slightly luxurious meal together before heading home. When we reached our front door, we found it unlocked. Inside, there were many footprints leading from the entrance to the Buddhist altar room. My father shouted that there must be a thief, but it was a burglary. We saw that the altar cabinet was closed and sealed shut with blue tape. At the strange sight, my older sister screamed and began shaking uncontrollably. My younger brother burst into tears from fright. My father stood frozen in shock. Thinking someone might still be inside, we huddled together. My father quickly ran to call the police. A nearby officer arrived first, followed by several more. While my father spoke with the police, we helped my anemic older sister to her room. The 3 of us cried our hearts out. Although the case was classified as a break-in, the investigation revealed that nothing had been stolen. The officers clearly suspected the religious group was behind it. They actively questioned people in the neighborhood and learned that on the day of the sports festival, a black van had been seen parked in front of our house. That was as far as the investigation went. Eventually, the police found my mother, but what they found was her body. She had been discovered hanging in the mountains of Gunma Prefecture, far from where we lived. Her hands were tied behind her back, yet strangely, the rope was tied so loosely that she could have freed herself if she had wanted to. My father told us the police were investigating her death as murder, not suicide. But there were no clues. My mother had been missing for nearly a year. We had no idea where she had been or what kind of life she had endured during that time. With her death, so many questions became forever unanswered. While the investigation made no progress, more terrible things continued to happen at home. One day, on her way back from shopping, my older sister was attacked. She was beaten beyond recognition and dragged into a public restroom, where she was assaulted. Halfway through the attack, a righteous passerby saved her. The perpetrator was later caught, a man with intellectual disabilities who had slipped out when his parents weren't watching. He had dragged my older sister into the restroom in a crowded public place. To this day, I still feel deep resentment toward the bystanders who walked by and did nothing to stop him. I know there was nothing that could be done, but I cannot forgive those who simply stood by. Afterward, my older sister tried hard to pull herself together and go on with life, but she was only forcing herself. Eventually, she broke. One day when I came home from school, I found her in her room after she had swallowed a large number of sleeping pills. I still remember the yellow foam coming from her mouth. She was rushed to the hospital immediately. Later she attempted suicide again, and this time she really left us. After my older sister's funeral, my father quit his job. The company paid him a substantial severance. He was deeply shaken. During the day, he would sit with a blank expression. When my younger brother and I spoke to him, he would only reply with a quiet meh. Okay. The neighborhood aunties, probably aware of our family's situation, tried their best to help us. They would bring us dinner and offer whatever support they could. One day, I came home from school and saw my father slumped alone in front of the family altar. He seemed to be staring at where my mother and sister had been, then spent the entire day drinking. I was heartbroken. I threw my arms around him and burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Since I was the kind of child who cried easily, my father was startled. He kept saying, I'm sorry. The two of us cried together, wrapped in each other's arms. Later, I entered high school and my younger brother started junior high. My father used the skills from his previous job and began working from home. His old company gave him plenty of assignments, and I took care of all the housework. I wanted my younger brother to have time to study properly, to live the same life as other students, focus on his books, join club activities, and not worry about anything else. But things never turned out the way I hoped. One day, on his way home from school, my younger brother was hit by a car and killed. He was crushed between the vehicle and a wall. The driver was a young man. At first he claimed it was careless driving, but later he confessed that someone had paid him a large sum of money to do it. The police eventually found the person behind it, the same woman who had first come to our house and tried to persuade my family to join her group. After her arrest, she said the reason she did it was because she hated us for refusing to listen to her. There were other disturbing details. First, this woman wasn't actually a member of any established religion. In other words, she was recruiting for a group she had created herself. That made the whole situation even more twisted and bizarre. The person who had broken into our house was almost certainly her too, whose footprints would have been all over the place if not hers. I also began to suspect that my mother's disappearance might have been her doing as well. But she managed to evade the police during questioning and never revealed the truth. She carried nothing that could identify her, and nothing was known about her background. She simply had a lot of money, though no one knew where it came from. In the end, we learned nothing about her. I felt deeply disappointed. All I could do was feel angry, powerless. Later, while in custody, the woman died. The police told us it was a heart attack. After that, my father suggested we move, and I agreed. The house held far more painful memories than happy ones. As unfortunate as everything was, I didn't want to cause trouble for the neighbors either. We started preparing for the move. Even though we only had the bare essentials, we packed little by little. Then, one Thursday evening a week before the move, my father and I went to the nearby public bathish. It was a wonderful memory. The warm water felt soothing, and for a moment I felt a little happy, a little hopeful. My father smiled for the first time in a long while. In that moment, I thought the future might still hold happiness for us. On our way home together, we heard sirens coming from the direction of our house. Our home was on fire. I stood there staring at the flames, unable to speak. My father was in shock too. He gazed at the burning house and murmured under his breath, "It's gone. Everything is gone." In his eyes I could see the roaring flames reflecting a deep, hopeless despair. The investigation later determined it was arson. They found traces of kindling and accelerant in the ashes. No one was ever caught. Nearby houses were also damaged in the blaze. My father collapsed to his knees, and the neighbor aunt from the affected house held me as she cried. Eventually we did move. After the move, my father began acting strangely, as if he had lost his mind. While working at home, he would talk as if my mother, my younger sister, and my younger brother were right there with him, just like before. He would say things like, "Dad, you farted again," or "Next week I want to go to the aquarium." I often saw the same things he described. When I came home from school, I would see them all there, and a nostalgic warmth would wash over me. Sometimes in the morning I would see my mother in the kitchen cooking, but I never knew if they were ghosts or illusions. I only knew I had to keep telling myself it was all in my head. I forced myself to ignore them completely, because if I started believing they were real, I would be finished. My mind would completely break. Then one day, while my father and I were eating together, I heard my mother's voice from the kitchen saying, "We're out of soy sauce." I looked at my father and our eyes met. He had heard it too. Suddenly he started laughing like a madman. Then he answered cheerfully, "Mom, he'll go to the supermarket and buy some right now." The moment he finished speaking, his face turned serious. Without warning, he lunged at me and grabbed my throat. I felt excruciating pain, struggling to breathe. Just then, he snapped out of it. Everything returned to normal. With deep sorrow in his voice, he kept repeating, "What's wrong with me? How could I do something like that?" He kept murmuring those words as he walked to the balcony and jumped right in front of me. After so many insane tragedies, my father finally broke. I think when he grabbed my throat, he probably planned to kill me first and then take his own life. In the end, my father died too. I was the only one left in the family. Afterward, my uncle took me in. Once I graduated from high school, I found a job in Tokyo and began living alone. This year, I turned 30-2. I've never married. I'm still alone. t, t, lo, t, 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 He was pedaling with huge, forceful motions, stomping on the pedals as if it took every ounce of strength he had. I was intensely curious what kind of person would be out riding a bicycle like this in the middle of the night, in a place like this. More than that, I desperately wanted to confirm whether this figure was actually a human or something far more terrifying. So I slowed down and gradually approached him. The closer I got, the stranger it felt. Although he looked like he was pedaling with violent effort, his actual speed was agonizingly slow, almost as if he wasn't moving forward at all. The nearer I drew, the more my skin crawled with dread. Finally, I rode past him. As I drew alongside, I deliberately slowed even more because I needed to see clearly whether he was a person or something unnatural. In that moment, I turned my head and looked straight at him. Under the dim light, I could see him plainly, a long minus-haired man. His face was deathly pale with a grayish tint. He completely ignored me, staring fixedly ahead with a twisted, agonized expression, frantically slamming his feet down on the pedals. At the time, I felt a mix of unease and terror, but I was also relieved. Now that I had seen him clearly, he was just a strange man after all, not some supernatural horror. After I passed him, though, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I glanced into my rearview mirror to take one more look, but there was nothing there. The man had vanished. My heart jolted. Since there were no cars on the bridge, I stopped and turned around to check. The bridge was completely empty. He had truly disappeared. In an instant, goosebumps erupted across my skin, every hair on my body stood on end. I pedaled away from there as fast as I could. But the nightmare washed over. The exit from Zinhai Bridge is a wide, sweeping curve. As I rode through the bend on my way down, I suddenly saw the same figure I had just encountered on the bridge. He was now pedaling uphill from below, coming straight toward me against the flow of traffic. His speed was terrifyingly fast, nothing like the agonizing slowness he had shown on the bridge. I was scared to death. My heart nearly burst from my chest. It happened so suddenly that, just as we were about to collide, I instinctively swerved to avoid him. I nearly lost control and slammed into the side of the bridge. I braced with my foot and fought desperately to steady the bike, somehow managing to make it safely down the bridge. I was too frightened to stop. Still shaken, I didn't even wait for the traffic lights. The moment there was no oncoming traffic, I ran the red light and fled. I was genuinely terrified. All kinds of horrific images flooded my mind, so the entire way I kept my eyes glued to the road ahead while constantly checking my rearview mirror, terrified that something might appear behind me and start chasing. I finally reached the convenience store near my friend's house. Only then did I notice my own foot. In the panic of swerving, I had scraped and twisted it. This little injury was also a blessing in disguise compared to what could have happened. That night remains the most horrifying experience I have ever had. Even now, I still ride past Zinhai Bridge often, but I have never encountered anything